All right, guys, so you got the day off kind of yesterday. I really did need you to kind of make a plan because, like I said, this stuff's not going to get any easier. Today is kind of easy. You are going to need your Chromebook, or if you downloaded that Desmos, we are going to be using Desmos again today. I did move this over because we're not really graphing, so it's kind of cool. You can move this over because we're going to need the calculator portion of this. Since you guys don't have access to the nice calculators, this is how we're going to have to do it. So today, we're taking notes a little differently today. I'm kind of jumping around a little bit. We are going to cover all of this in one day today, mainly because I think we can handle it. And if I just gave you a video yesterday with no assignment, let's be honest, you probably wouldn't have watched it. So I've got to make sure that you watch it. So we're starting out in chapter 5. Chapter 5 is super short. It's a short and sweet chapter. You actually are testing over it next Friday already. So it's going to go kind of quick. Your test scores, once everybody ends up taking it, I can release those and you can see how you did. But I definitely wanted to move on today. So today, we're going to start out by talking about some things that we've already discussed. So first thing we're going to talk about is function. A lot of the things in this unit are functions. So what a function is, just as a quick reminder, it's an equation that you plug values into. So today you are going to be plugging values into functions. And some of these will look kind of familiar, some of them won't. And then just as a quick reminder, domain are the x values. And we are going to be given domains and we're going to find the ranges. We're going to be talking about domain and range a little bit more in depth tomorrow. But domain are the x values. It's how far left or how far right your graph goes, and that will make more sense tomorrow. Range is the y values that are included on your graph, and that is how far down and up your goes. And then function notation is the notation that you are going to see today, and that's usually written as like f of x, or it's like written as g of x. It's written as a function. So there's no y equals, but technically it's kind of like y equals. So we're going to start out with the graphs because those are the things that are going to be a little weird today that you're going to need Desmos for. So I'm hoping to make this short and sweet, but I do need to make sure you understand how to plug into Desmos. So we are going to do the odds in your assignment, like in this packet today, and then your assignment to be the evens. So if we take a look at number 3 here, number 3, we give you, or I give you the function f of x equals x minus 3. And I want you to end up, you're not going to sketch these today because you don't have access to graphs. You just need to fill in the tables. That's part of your assignment today, is filling in tables. And then you're also going to have to write functions in a second. But I want to show you how to fill in this table. So this one's not too bad because it's linear and we've done this before. But to fill in this table, you are going to take the x values and plug them in to the function. So whenever you substitute into a function, whatever value you're substituting in has to be put in parentheses. So if remember x minus 3, write this down, f of x equals x minus 3. Write this table down, pause if you need to, and then come back. So I'm going to go to Desmos, and I had, again, the function f of x equals x minus 3, and I need to plug a negative 2 in. So in Desmos, I'm going to do a parenthesis, negative 2, and then go press the right arrow to get out of the parenthesis, minus 3. And then over here, it tells you that it's negative 5. So in your table, we're going to type in or write in a negative 5. Today, a lot of the hard part and the annoying part is going to be filling in these tables. Then we go back to Desmos. And now instead of a negative 2, this is kind of the cool part, is I can just go, I want a negative 1. And that gives me a negative 4. And then I want a 0. And that gives me a negative 3. And then I want a 1. And that gives me a negative 2. And then I get a 2. And I get a negative 1. So when it's all said and done, this is what your table should look like. And then to graph it, you would just plot your points. I know that you don't have these, but I'm just going to show you how you would plot it. So -2, -5, -1, -4, 0, -3, 1, -2, 2, -1. And then since this is linear, or if you were to play connect the dots, you would have a straight line. So these will be straight lines. Notice it's just x, no, there's nothing with the x, it's just an x and then -3. There's no exponent, there's nothing like that. So your assignment today, you're going to do number 4. You're just going to fill in this table. Please make sure that you put parentheses around the x. Let's take a look at a couple more. So we're going to, again, just do the odds together, and then I'm going to come back and do the other 2 problems with you guys. So number 7, we have an absolute value function. For those that are unaware of what absolute values are, absolute values take everything negative and make it positive, which this day and age we need more positivity anyway, so that's why we're going to chat about absolute values. The rest of the unit is going to be these absolute value graphs. So an absolute value graph will end up looking like a V, or it'll be an upside down V. So it's going to be one or the other, which is kind of cool. So that's kind of your way also, once you go through and do your table, if you were to like kind of sketch it, if you don't get a V or upside down V, something's wrong. So if I were you, real quick, jot this down, f of x equals absolute value of x plus 1, and then make a table from -2 to 2, pause, come back to this, and I'm going to show you how to plug this into Desmos. So here's Desmos. Now my equation said ab value of x. Down here, the keyboard, see this little absolute value? Click it. And I'm plugging in a -2. Now get out of the absolute value bars, plus 1. And if you look over here, it says that it's 3. So I'm going to put a 3 into my table. Now I'm going to plug in a -1. So instead of -2, I have -1. And that gives me a 2. Instead of a -1, I have a 0. And that gives me a 1. Instead of a 0, I'm going to plug in a 1. And that gives me a 2. Oops, I pressed enter and that's what happened there. Okay. Instead of a 1, I'm going to delete that out and I'm going to plug in a 2 and I get a 3. So here's what my table looks like. So then to graph it, I go left 2 up 3, left 1 up 2. Notice I'm not doing anything with slope right now. 0, 1, 1, 2, and 2, 3. Now if I were to play connect the dots, see how this looks like a V? That's how I know I did it right. And there's your absolute value graph. So again, you're going to be filling in, actually number 10, you're going to be doing number 10 here. So you're going to plug in -2, then the absolute value, and then you're going to plug in all of these and then figure out and hopefully get the correct numbers there. Let's take a look at number 9 together. This is a quadratic. A quadratic has an exponent of a 2. These graphs that are quadratics or have exponents of 2 will either be a U or it'll be an upside down U. So again, we're going to use Desmos to help us. Jot this down real quick. Y equals 4 minus x squared. And then also we have this table. Now again, we are going to be substituting in. So when you substitute, you need to have parentheses. You only put parentheses around the variable. So I'm going to only put parentheses right here. This minus is not in the parentheses, just x. So when I go to Desmos, I'm going to delete that out. I have 4 minus parentheses x. I'm going to plug in a -2, get out of the parentheses. Now down here, see this little square right here? Squared. And then it tells me I get a 0. So we get 0. Now I'm going to, instead of the -2, I'm going to have a -1, and that gives me a 3. Instead of a -1, I have a 0, and that gives me a 4. Instead of 0, I'm plugging in a 1, and I get a 3. And instead of a 1, I'm going to plug in a 2, and that gives me a 0. So here is my table, right here. And I am going to now plot these. -2, 0, -1, 3, 0, 4, 1, 3, 2, 0. And if you look here, if I were to connect these, it does look like it would point down. And these are curved, so you need to make sure that you, when you connect these, or if you were to connect them, that these are curved. And that's what my graph would look like. So again, you're going to end up doing a quadratic, this one right here. Make sure that you put the x in parentheses. Can't stress that enough. Okay, last one that I'm going to walk you through with just the graphs is this right here. This is an exponential. Exponentials end up looking kind of like this. They go up, or they increase they increase fast. So like you want your banks to have your money increase exponentially. That's what it means. So this one says y equals 2 to the x. Now, warning with exponentials, you will get decimals. Don't freak out. I'm going to warn you again, you're going to get decimals. It's okay. So when you plug in, we're going to do this one together. It says y equals 2 to the x. Write this down along with the table, and we're going to fill the table in together. So if I go back to Desmos, delete that out here, and it says y equals 2, and then I need to get it up to the exponent. That's right here. It says a to the b. You're going to click that, and it puts it up to the exponent. I'm going to plug in a -2. So 2 to the -2 gives me 0.25, which is fine. You get decimals are totally fine. Don't freak out. So then, go back here. Instead of a -2, I want to type in a -1, and I get 0.5. Instead of a -1, I plug in a 0. 2 to the 0 is 1. We have a whole entire unit on exponentials coming up. So getting used to plugging these in is going to be good. Instead of a 0, I have a 1. 2 to the first power is 2. And then 2 to the second power, hopefully you didn't need to plug that in. If you did, it's fine. 2 squared is 4. So then I come back to my graph. I'm just going to show you what these graphs look like. So -2.25. I know it's going to be hard to graph that, but I'm going to get really close to the x-axis. -1.5, 0, 1, 1, 2, and 2, 4. So when you graph these, it increases, and then it gets really close to the x-axis, but it doesn't actually cross it. It's called a horizontal asymptote. Like I said, though, we're gonna be chatting a lot more about these graphs the closer, like, and in the next unit. So you're gonna have this one to graph and find the coordinates on your own. The other thing we are going to do today is, and I might run out of time, I'm hoping I don't have to make a second video, is we are going to have to identify patterns for tables, which you've done this already. And if it's linear, if you have a pattern, you're going to write a linear function. Your linear functions will be in point slope form. So y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. So we need to find the slope and then a point. And you're always going to use the first point they give you if it's a pattern. So if I take a look here at number 5, to go from -1 to 4, I go up 5. To go from 5 to 9, I go up 5. To go from 9 to 4, up 5. 14 to 19, I go up 5. So that's good. 0 to 1, up 1, up 1, up 1, up 1, up 1. So to write your slope, just as a reminder, you always write your slope y over x. So this one does have a pattern. So my slope is going to be 5 over 1, which is the same thing as 5. That's what I'm going to plug in for m. x1, y1. I'm going to use this as my x1. This is my y1. So I do y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. And remember, when you have the double negative, you make it into a positive. So this is not new. We've done this already. So if you have a pattern, then you write the equation. So here, to go from 2 to 0.5, you go down 1.5. From 0.5 to -1, you go down 1.5. And you continue that pattern here. To go from -2 to -1, you go up 1, up 1, up 1, up 1. So your slope is, we're just going to write it as -1.5. Then to write your equation, this is going to be your y1. This is going to be your x1. So you do y minus y1 equals m